Right. Hello, good morning. This is Marika with Green Economy, and here I am with your EBWE tips. So what is EBWE? Well, let's talk about that. So EBWE is the City of LA's existing building energy and water efficiency program. It's been around since 2018. It is a citywide benchmarking and energy and water disclosure ordinance with two phases. Phase one is annual benchmarking, and phase two is a performance phase where you have to show that your building is actually either efficient or you're going to have to do an audit. So let's talk about that later. We're focused on phase one here. So phase one is benchmarking. What's benchmarking? Well, let's talk about it. It's not that hard, but it's actually very important and important to do accurately because it affects your phase two. If it's not done right, you might be going down a path you don't need to be, an expensive path. So let's talk about how we gather this data. The EBWE ordinance is an annual ordinance for phase one, and that means every year we have to report energy and water to LADBS. The reports are due June 1, and what benchmarking involves is there's three basic groups of data. First, there's information about the building, right? How old it is, how big it is, how many meters of energy and water data. Super important to track that. If you've got multifamily and you're not tracking that meter list and confirming that that is what the building has, mistake there. You could have a mistake. So that's the building information and identifying its use. There are over 80 different uses in the Energy Star software, which is where we do this benchmarking, which is a federal software with the EPA. Second group of data is that use. Okay, so if it's an office, there's certain information that we need to know. What are the hours of operation? Is the entire building heated and cooled? How many people work in the building? How many computers? These are all things that affect information that affects the scores. Third bucket of information is the actual utility data, right? So what we're trying to do is get information from the utilities. And it's not, they have their own little requirements, so it's private, and there's certain ways that we gather that data. Also very important. So we're gathering electricity from LADWP, gas from SoCal Gas, and then water from LADWP. So that information is all mixed together in the EPA software, Energy Star Portfolio Manager, and it produces information. I kind of consider it as a financial statement for your building. So it's valuable because the Energy Star score that's provided is actually a comparison of your building's energy use. It's a 1 to 100 rating, 100 being the best. And if you get over a 75, you can get the Building Energy Star certified. And what this energy metric is really looking at how your building is performing its use, performing against all the other similar use buildings in the software. Another valuable metric that I find very valuable is the site and source EUI, energy use intensity, where we're looking at the cost, the overall energy usage of the property on a kBTU basis, on a square foot basis. And so this is a really good measure to look at how your building is performing against itself, especially after you have a new tenant come in or you do a retrofit. So these are all great information. So back to EBWE, it's important to do correctly. It gives you also GHG emissions. It's the beginning of the ESG world. That data is coming in and will be used for the E and ESG, but also can be used for benchmarking for compliance for the City of LA. So if you have any questions, let us know. info@greeneconomy, M-E, not an M-Y.com. Hello, it's Marika again, Green Economy. So let's talk a little bit about EBWE, the City of LA's existing building energy and water efficiency ordinance, phase 2. So this is our standard question. Please give me pricing for an audit. Okay, well, yes, we can do that. But did you know that in fact there are energy and water exemptions that you could meet? Really? Yes. Not every service provider is going to let you know that. Why? Because they want you to do the audit, which is way more expensive. We're not like that. So we're going to talk about what this means. And then next video is going to talk a little bit more about what those exemptions are. So again, back to the beginning, phase one is this annual benchmarking that we're doing, right? It's in the Energy Star software. It's determining how efficiently your property is using energy and water. And the city is focused on all of this because inefficient buildings are expensive to operate. And so someone, either the tenant or the owner, is paying more than they need to for energy and water. And inefficient buildings create emissions that are going out into the atmosphere, which are not good for the planet. 40% of the emissions out there are due to commercial buildings. So having an awareness of how your building is performing, and if you decide to make investments into your building to make it more energy and water efficient, it will be better for the planet and better for your pocketbook and increase the value of your property. Because at the end of the day, the net operating income of a property is very important, and energy costs are something that you can control by being a bit more aware of how to do that, which just call us. Anyway, so let's just talk about option one. Option one on phase two, which is every 5 years. And if you look at the table below, it's tied to the last digit of the building ID. Every building in the city of LA that has been tagged for this ordinance has a digit. The last digit is what's driving when you have to comply with phase two. Currently, we are in the 6 and 7s, and the reporting of emissions for phase two and exemptions is due 12/1/2024. Now we're looking at a period of time of data from December 1, 2019 to December 1, 2024, or in fact, we're moving it even more current, and they're having LADBS is having us look at data through September 2024. So what are your compliance paths to meet these requirements? One is let's get an energy or water exemption. So you're actually showing that you've reduced energy and water during that 5-year period, or you're going to have to do an ASHRAE level 2 energy and or water audit. What does that mean? Well, ASHRAE is the American Society of Heating and Refrigerating Association of Engineers. It's basically the standard by which buildings are created and operated. And a level 2 audit is a very in-depth audit. This involves gathering all the data related to the existing conditions in your building that either use energy and or water. The report includes all the, it's basically an inventory of your equipment in your building. So it's actually a nice historical document, so you know what's going on. And the report also provides a retro commissioning report to show you, hey, these are all the things you could replace. This is the cost, the approximate cost, the approximate energy or water savings, and looking at how you can actually save money on these retrofits in your building. And so in 5 years, when you have to do EBEWE phase two again, you're not going to have to do an audit, right? So the city doesn't require you do the retrofits noted in the report, but it would behoove you to do them, especially if there are incentives, utility incentives available to take advantage of and, help cash flow some of these retrofits. So the options are one, meet an energy or water exemption. We're all about it, trying to understand the data, but the data has to be correct, right? So if it's been benchmarked by somebody who didn't do it accurately, you may be led down a path of needing an audit when you actually could meet an energy or water exemption. And actually the difference between those two paths, it could be 65% less to meet an cost-wise to meet an energy or water exemption versus an audit. So call us. Let's see if you can meet energy or water exemptions, and don't be fooled that you need an audit. What are the most popular, I'm going to call, we've been doing this for now 5 years. Green Economy has been in business for 15. Let's look at what are the significant energy and water exemptions available. So what's really happening here is based on that phase one benchmarking, you can meet these exemptions and you can avoid having an audit, ASHRAE level audit completed. The number one Energy Star energy exemption is Energy Star certification. This is a great exemption. Not only does this increase the value of your building, it also tells occupants that this building has high air quality standards, thermal comfort, and illumination lighting levels, as those are the 3 tests that we must do in the building to meet this requirement. It also requires that the building have an Energy Star score greater than 75, which is a 1 to 100, right? So if you're 75 and above, you can be Energy Star. You're eligible to be Energy Star certified. You must have those 3 tests done in the building in order to meet that certification. We take the testing results and there's an application and we send it off to the EPA and they review it. And then you get this beautiful blue decal that says to everyone, hey, I've got an awesome building. So that's number 1. We find that a really great exemption. Unfortunately, a lot of buildings don't meet it, but it is something that we strive for. And if you have a building that you're trying to get to and be Energy Star certified, talk to us. We'll help you get it there. Number 2 is the same thing where it's 2 of 3 years. Let's ignore that. So number 3 is one that we see quite a bit. Certain buildings, as far as like manufacturing or retail, are not able to get an Energy Star score. So in that case, we're looking at the overall energy use of the building and is it performing better than 25% of the buildings out there in the CBEC study, which is a national study. Currently, the data is 2013 in Energy Star. So if your building can perform 25% better than those buildings, you have an exemption. Number 4 is my favorite and the easiest one and the lowest price is your building has reduced its source energy use by 15%. What does that mean? Source energy use. Sounds a little complicated. Actually not. So listen to this. The building uses energy in 2 ways, right? Gas and therms. Most buildings have gas. And then electricity and kWh. The 2 are apples to oranges. The software converts them both to kBTU, adds them, which is a UK measure of energy. For some reason, they're both divisible by that, adds it together, and then subtracts it by the square footage of the building. So it's an overall energy use of the building on a square foot basis. But because and that's actually the site energy use, but because the city's looking at source, think of it as source, meaning where is the data coming from on the grid. So you might have a terrible connection with the utility, and that's going to make your source EUI not so great. So this one is a little tricky because not all of it is determining how you're managing your building. It can be part of the grid, but overall, if you do make adjustments in your retrofits in your building, the source EUI will go down. The lower, the better. Now, if you can show a 15% reduction of the source EUI, you now have an exemption. So we see a lot of buildings with that. If you change out your lighting to LED, if you put in better thermostats, you change your hot water system, your central hot water system. These are all things that can make your source EUI go down. And solar. Okay, water exemptions. There's a couple other energy exemptions, but let's just keep going. Water exemptions, you need to reduce your water use by 20%. Yeah, that's hard in multifamily, but there are toilet rebates, water savings incentives, all kinds of free incentives right now. If you're interested in learning about those, give us a call. So one other option that's kind of interesting and has become very popular is when you have a triple net lease, and the lease says that the tenant, it should be a single leasee, if the tenant is fully responsible for the maintenance of the HVAC and water equipment serving their space in the building, basically the building. Now, if that's true, if the tenant is responsible for all the equipment maintenance, then there is a base building system exemption. And that is great because it exempts you from energy and water. Every 5 years, you will have to refile for that. And it's based on the lease. So the lease has to be submitted to LADBS with a form that we complete. And we review your lease to make sure it even makes sense to send it to them. And then off it goes. And you're good. You're good. You didn't have to pay for an expensive audit. So again, if you're interested in knowing if your buildings can meet any of these exemptions, let us know. Otherwise, you're going to have to do an ASHRAE Level 2 audit, which is a documentation of all your existing conditions and all the retrofit recommendations with savings of what you should do to your building to make it more energy efficient. Let us know if you have any other questions. Hi, it's Marika again. I just wanted to get a little bit more into how we approach phase two. If you call us up and you say, you know what, we've had somebody else benchmark our buildings, or we're benchmarking in-house, and you need help with phase two, what do we do? Well, let's look at this. We always want to try and give you the lowest cost option, right? Is we don't push you into an audit. We evaluate your phase one benchmarking for the best path for phase two compliance. So what's really important is the way we do it is in Energy Star, you're able to share the building from one account to our account. You share the building with us. You provide us with certain information about the building, and we confirm that the benchmarking was done accurately. Many times, unfortunately, when other people do it, they either miss the gas, they didn't know they needed gas. Yes, gas is important. It's part of the energy consumption of the building if it has gas. Some of the building details aren't completed. Yes, that also affects the score. So benchmarking is super important. And we can re-benchmark the building if it's been done incorrectly. We're happy to do that to see what the best path is for you. So once the building has been evaluated, we then look at it and say, look, these are your options. You can do this. You can meet one of the energy or water exemptions, or you're going to need an energy or water account audit. So what's interesting here is you may need an energy exemption, like let's say you may be able to get the building Energy Star certified, but then you're going to need a water audit. The two are not together. They're both need to be done, but they could have different results. So one of the things that's important is really understanding what's happening with your building so you can avoid that audit. And even better is if your compliance for phase two is next year, tap us and say, hey, let's look at how the building is performing, because we can look at it right now and say, oh, you're on path to meet an energy exemption or a water exemption, or no, you're going to need audits on all of these. And we can help you meet those exemptions by reducing energy or water with approaches that we can provide you with, and it can save you a bunch of money. And instead you're investing in your building than paying for an audit. So happy to do that for you. Let us know if you would like us to review your benchmarking to see if your building can meet energy or water exemptions so you can avoid the audit now or in the future. We're happy to do that for you. No charge.